Hello and welcome to the Stuff International News Stage. My name's Will Dunn, I'm the editor of Stuff magazine, and I'm joined by Sir Hossein Yassaie, the CEO and founder of Imagination Technologies. Now, Sir Hossein, for people who aren't familiar with your work, I've described you in the past as the man who you didn't know built all of your gadgets, which isn't, I mean, not completely built with it. The work that Imagination does is in a dizzying array of phones and tablets and all kinds of these sort of devices that we put in stuff all around the world. What sort of percentage do you think we're looking at now for say for smartphones? How many? What sort of numbers are we looking at?
Well, somewhere around 50% of smartphones that are shipping today use technologies from Imagination, either graphics or video or a combination thereof. Maybe just to give you an idea, this current year we expect somewhere around 1.2 to 1.3 billion things that will ship that will our technology, and half of those are smartphones. The other half are anything from TVs to gaming consoles and a whole new array of IoT, connectivity devices, access points, pretty much everything that you can imagine.
Yeah, and so if you have a smartphone, there's a 50-50 chance that it has Imagination technology.
I would say a 50-50 chance.
And to just sort of give a bit more background to your past personally, you were instrumental in the team that developed digital TV. Am I right? The first digital TV set, I think, as a researcher.
Yeah, when I was much younger and working for a company called ST Microelectronics, I was very much driving the development of the new digital TV chipset. This is many years ago. The whole world was analog those days, and developing the new MPEG standard and anything digital was definitely one of the fairly early challenges. And I think that really taught me the lesson, or encouraged me to be very open in trying to do disruptive stuff, because digital TV in early 90s or late 70s was completely new thing, but today it's just normal. I think that certainly was an exciting early challenge.
Yeah, and from there, since then Imagination's sort of consumer arm, Pure, has revolutionized digital radio. And I remember also you told me about you were told at one point by somebody that nobody would want a color screen, a large color screen on a phone.
Yes, actually I remember. Must have been 7-8 years ago. As a company, we were making a lot of investment in very small, tiny graphics engine targeting mobile phones. And this is the time where the screen on the phone was tiny. There was buttons on it, no touch. And I remember having a conversation with the CEO of a US company. I won't say which company it was, and he was telling me that I'm wasting my time developing graphics for phones because the screen is too small. And I remember I distinctly said teeth will be provided. And, here we are so many years later, and I don't think people would tolerate a phone which didn't have touch, didn't have big screens and internet access, etc.
So I wanted to provide that background to show how absolutely fundamental you've been to the current generation of consumer technology that we have today. And so I'm just really interested to know, before we start talking about your announcements at CES, we're here sort of surrounded by lots of wearable technology and things like that. Is there anything in particular you've seen that you really like the look of?
Well, I certainly think, if you look at what is new, or the new trends in this show is, I would say, wearable, definitely moving forward. I'm particularly interested in the IoT space, where the technology is being deployed beyond what I call entertainment or productivity, which is something that we've been doing for 20 years. And with the IoT, the technology is now being applied to more human-oriented problems, whether it's healthcare, energy. So I find that very, very interesting. I think the other thing I must touch on as a company that is very interested in audio, the stuff that is going on in wireless streaming in audio, and also high-quality audio. We have a partnership with Meridian on MQA. We're bringing technology that will deliver the music the way it was meant to be delivered. I'm very excited about that. I think that's a big plus that is sort of beginning to happen.
I was fortunate to have the chance to listen to some MQA files against some MP3s yesterday, and even to my I don't have the golden ears of a hi-fi writer, but it made a dramatic difference to the it just sounded so much more faithful to the way it would have originally sounded. And that's due to the dynamic range, am I right? Is it the what's the kind of the wizardry behind that?
Well, I think really when you capture something that is fundamentally analog, audio is an analog continuous data. You digitize it and you transmit it and you build it at the other end. Historically, we've people concentrated on, is this MP3? What are the bits? What's the accuracy of bit, etc. The digital part is really good enough. I think the issue is now is from the moment you record something to your delivery, there's a bunch of other analog conversions, environmental stuff that is happening to the music. And I think what Meridian have done with MQA is to encapsulate those transformations, mathematically, and transmit it essentially with the audio in a encapsulated set of data, and then you're able to then reconstruct not just the compressed audio, but the way it was recorded and any errors that have taken place in the analog world, and that's really why it sounds so much better. I think my view of Meridian is they've solved the real problem rather than getting into, how many bits is this, what is the clock speed. They've solved the real problem.
Okay, and so you've just announced Caskeid support for MQA. Do you see it being picked up in quite a big way then in the near future?
Yes, I think I'm sure you and I talked about this last time we had a chat. We have a audio platform which we refer to as Caskeid, which is a high precision wireless delivery system. And what I find really fascinating, combining that technology or supporting MQA with our platform means that people not only get the ease of wireless delivery, but really high quality music. So yes, from all the customer engagement that we see around our technology and the interest they see in MQA, I think this is going to be quite big.
Yeah, and I suppose at the kind of mass consumer level, it's a question of persuading or getting a few of the larger streaming services to because it's very much a sort of built for streaming as well, isn't it, MQA? So I mean, obviously, Pure Connect is there is the streaming service already. Could you see somebody like Spotify picking it up, or?
Well, I mean, I can't really talk about Spotify specifically, but certainly we are working with Seven Digital, which are one of the music warehouses and delivery platforms, and Pure actually works with them in their music service. Certainly you see those guys delivering MQA content. But again, as I said, all the discussion I see with the customer base and players in the market is that there's definite strong interest and support behind delivering high quality audio. So I think MQA will be a lot bigger next year this time.
Okay. And the other announcement that you've made here at CES has been around your MIPS Creator, which is a so it's a small PC running either Android or Linux that is designed for people who want to build their own tech.
It did, yes.
So what was the original intention behind the MIPS Creator?
I think from our point of view, we wanted to make it easier for people to access the technologies we have at a very low cost way with strong open tools around them. So that was really the drive behind creating the Creator 120, which combines our CPUs, the graphics engine, and a bunch of other stuff. The real focus as to what the impact is it goes from anywhere from educational establishment, whether it's school or universities or the maker community. It just allows people to get access to technology very easily and build solutions.
Yeah.
My expectation is that as a result of us putting these kind of platforms out and making it available to a large community, there'll be a lot more innovation. We've already given about 1,000 of these boards to schools and universities, and tons of new projects have happened with those, which I think is a sign of things to come.
Yeah, it's obviously. I think it would be fair to compare it to the Raspberry Pi in a way, which is a similar kind of project, but the MIPS Creator seems to be perhaps a little bit more accessible because of the operating systems that you can run on it and the things that you can develop. So you don't need a kind of a slightly smaller sort of operating system that you would have on a Raspberry Pi. You can actually run full sort of desktop level Linux on it, can't you?
Yes. So and I think what we've done. So what we've done with the Creator board is make sure both Linux and Android are available on that platform. As a result, it's available to do bigger things and greater things. If you look at the Raspberry Pi, which was set the agenda and has been a huge positive thing for both teaching and developing the community, I refer to Creator of Raspberry Pi plus custard. It just has brings more capability, more technology, and allows people to do new things, which I think is a very positive thing. And also, from an imagination point of view, we're very interested to see young people to go and study, maths and sciences, etc. And I think, in some respect, this helps our own case in terms of getting the engineers that we need later on in the years.
So it's an investment.
It is an investment as well.
And have you seen any kind of interesting sort of homebrewed projects made with the Creator already?
Yeah, there's always many interesting and technically complex products and things. I've seen people creating streaming devices, whether it's video or gaming solutions, etc., which is all exciting, very interesting. But perhaps the most novel and interesting one that grabbed my attention was someone who'd created a solution that was controlling watering their plants.
Oh wow!
So basically, using the board alongside the plants they had in the home, and so that when they were away on holiday, the right amount of water was being released into the pot. So I thought that was very novel. So IoT application.
Yeah.
That's I felt that was very different and interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a really good time to be introducing a product like that, because there are increasingly so many other things that it can work with, as like you were saying, sort of Internet of Things devices and internet services that can allow people to quite easily make a system like that, which would have been, even a few years ago, would have been really a much more technical endeavor.
Yeah.
So would you like to see, or perhaps you think of making some other things that can work with the creator? So things like sensors or little sort of.
Well, we have a big plan for Creator.
Okay.
We did it at first. Frankly, did it as a sort of development system and just helping access to our technology. But the demand was so massive that we've taken the step of formally launching the product, and you will see a family being developed. We're working with third parties in terms of bringing sensors around the device. Retailers are interested to promote it into the maker community, which I find particularly fascinating. New community that is developing.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see it becoming a platform that a lot of people would use to experiment, and there'll be third-party products around it as well.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, I personally think that's going to be something we're going to see a lot more over the next few years. Is people creating their own devices using. I mean, obviously using bought products, but kind of putting them together in their own interesting, inventive ways. But a lot of people are still going to want to just buy, out-of-the-box consumer tech, aren't they? And so, where do you see that side of technology going in the next few years?
You mean in terms of the people creating products?
Well, no, I was talking more about sort of general sort of the kind of mass market consumer technology.
The mass market, yeah. I think, certainly smartphones are becoming smarter.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously software now is playing a significant part in terms of, you've seen the phones becoming, much, much better as voice recognition. Audio is becoming a new input device because touch screen has already developed. So I think the smartness in these devices is basically beginning to touch other human sensories. As I said, like audio has been quite an interesting development in the last 18 months. So we think that will continue. The GPU or graphics engine capabilities in these devices is increasing. And one side effect of that, I don't know how many of your readers understand that, a graphics engine is also a massive computer. It has huge amount of floating point capabilities. It's a bit like having a supercomputer in your phone. And I think over the next few years, you'll see applications that will begin to use the computational capability of the GPU to do much more than graphics.
Yeah.
And we've seen, as I said, gesture recognition and other stuff. So I think those kind of trends will continue. I think the other things that we find very interesting is the wireless connectivity around the home, whether it's high quality audio or sensors, etc. But I would say, for me personally, the most important, exciting area is the technology being applied into new areas beyond the, as I said, communication or productivity in healthcare, energy, the Internet of Things, or Internet of Everything, as some people would prefer to call them. I think that's a trend to watch. And I would then link the maker community or people wanting to create products very much a new community that is going to contribute in innovation.
Yeah.
A lot of the innovation doesn't have to come from companies anymore. There's these communities that can access products such as Creator or our customers' devices to do new things. So I look forward to all those changes around the IoT and communities that develop around that.
Yeah. Well, I think perhaps one good example of a maker or a sort of hacker who has gone on to create mass consumer technology, or is going to, is Palmer Luckey, who we had on our stage yesterday, who started out by sort of just buying and modifying virtual reality equipment, and then and now is obviously leading the market in it. So, but you mentioned health technology there. I remember the last time we spoke, which was only a couple of years ago, you were talking about some early trials of a kind of sort of like a patch that people could wear that would monitor their vital signs. And I thought it was fascinating to see here at CES this year. I don't know if you've seen the AMP strip, but it's a kind of plaster that you wear and it keeps an eye on your vital signs and things like that. But I remember you saying that's a really important thing for the future of just people in general, because it's going to get the number of doctors isn't increasing as quickly as the number of people, I think. Do you think we'll start to see sort of more technological healthcare in the next few years?
Yeah, I really see two sides to that. One is deployment, that kind of technologies in hospitals or emergency wards. You know, I think last time we talked, I showed you the patch, which we're working with a partner called Tumaz, that's creating those. Those devices are now being used in hospitals in UK and over here very, very effectively in terms of monitoring patients that come in either in emergency wards or in general wards 24/7 automatically, which means the nurses and doctors don't have to constantly go around and check things. In fact, the accuracy of data has increased, and I think that will mean the patient care in the hospital establishment and emergencies will improve. So that's one side of that. The other side of it is consumers equipping themselves with more and more devices that monitor their health. And I think that tendency will result in people, when they go and see the doctors, they actually have a lot of data. You know, you could go in there and say, by the way, this is the data I have about the condition I'm concerned about. Which means the patients will have more information about themselves than the doctor. So I think that will generate a new relationship and a new way of interacting with your GP and hospitals, and perhaps getting better service.
Yeah.
I think the only issue I would say is some of these devices in terms of accuracy are not really medical grade. The devices I was talking about in the first category being used in hospitals, they are medical grade, and I really look forward as the technologies that are being used in hospital end up in wearables, so that the data that the patients are collecting are trustworthy enough to be useful properly by the doctors. But I think that trend would help with diagnosis and early recognition in a significant way.
And is that the main trend in wearable technology, do you think, in that kind of collecting data on yourself and using it for health and fitness, or is there any other sort of particular area of wearable technology that you think is particularly promising?
Well, I think the technological advantage of
having some issues with our wearable technology.
I think we need some more advanced technologies, maybe.
Or just a bit of sellotape.
Yes, a bit more sellotape. So I think from a technological changes that we see in that space, one is obviously sports and that kind of application. I think safety and security is another area. I think if you're the whole basic mobile phones and the fact that younger people have them, I'm sure as a parent, I'm much more comfortable knowing where my daughters are at any given time. But I think wearable devices would bring, more security, more confidence about, one's life. Of course, it's relevant for sport and relevant for healthcare. I see those as the key areas.
Yeah. And just to move on to something else that I remember we talked about before that I thought was particularly exciting in terms of going back into graphics. We spoke about ray tracing technology, which takes a little bit of getting your head around because, so as I understand it, traditional graphics, you're using triangles basically. You're just creating lots and lots and lots of triangles. Whereas in ray tracing, you are modeling light itself. Is that right?
Well, almost.
Okay.
You're sort of partly correct and partly not, but it's not really the triangle that really the issue is. In a conventional graphics implementation, what people see today on computer screens, the hardware engine has no understanding of lighting. So in a gaming environment, if you're driving around and you go into the tunnel and you see all the reflection on your car, none of that is real. It's the artists have to pre-calculate and bake them in. Now, the issue with it is that if you're driving in a car, in a tunnel, etc., it's very contained, you know. The artist can sort of pre-calculate a few locations and prepare the data that is needed to make the thing look like. If, on the other hand, in your open environment like here, and you're walking about, you can't expect the artist calculate every possible location that something could be, and then sort out the lighting around it. And what ray tracing does, it understands lighting fully within the 3D environment. So if we wanted to model a room like this, you can literally define, I have so many lights on the wall, I have windows, and then the engine will automatically calculate the lighting. There's no work done by the artist in advance, basically pre-baking stuff.
Yeah.
Now, one consequence of that is the scenery would look much better and more accurate because everything is modeled correctly. And so the quality of the scene is very important. In my opinion, the more important factor around it would be the fact that the content creation is so much easier because the artist doesn't have to worry about, pre-baking lights, considering where the subject has walked about, what do I have to do the lighting to look correct, because it's going to be done automatically, and the artist can spend their time on creating the scenery, the game story, or whatever is going on. So as a result, the cost of developing content will go down dramatically because of the ray tracing. And I think that I have often equated ray tracing to YouTube in a strange comparison, because YouTube has made video content, essentially has enabled user-generated video content. I think ray tracing would liberate graphics in the same way, and would enable user-generated participation, or all content creation will become a lot easier.
And people will be doing that on their phones or tablets.
Well, it will get there, but I certainly see ray tracing. The technology we've developed in ray tracing is very scalable. So at one end, you can equip, for example, a next generation gaming console with huge amount of ray tracing capability, because the game consoles need to do something next time round, because if you take a high-end tablet, it's getting almost as good. And I'm sure you agree with me. So something like ray tracing would enable those kind of platforms to do something more exciting and more realistic. I mean, we're really talking about getting to a position that you can create avatar movie-style content in graphics, etc. But the ray tracing technology we've developed is so scalable that you can have 20% ray tracing introduced in a phone device, but create very exciting effects and improve the lighting and etc. So you'll see that over the next few years, it gets introduced at different level in different products. But silicon technology has the habit of making everything small ultimately. So over the next 10 years, I think ray tracing will be in everything in a very big way.
It's I think it does seem that it's interesting you mentioned the games consoles, because it was noticeable that both Sony and Microsoft, when they introduced their new consoles, took great care to talk about indie game developers and small content creators. So do you think it's fair to compare where we are now with sort of single-person graphics creation to kind of early camera phones? So, you know, where people were just about starting to be able to make
Yes.
video on their phones.
Yes.
Now they're at that stage, and that created YouTube. So the
Yes.
next stage is.
So I certainly believe, you know, over one of the mega trends in the next 10 years will be the, you know, smaller teams, or you will need less resources creating amazing graphics content. And I think that liberation will be a significant step in the development of the industry.
Yeah. Okay. And so future versions of the Mix Creator will be used by those people. Do you think?
Well, you know, our plan on Creator is to introduce whatever technology we have in, you know, variants of devices like Creator, so that it's available to development for developer community, etc. So I wouldn't say tomorrow, but over the next, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, you'll see those kind of trends.
Okay. So it's good time to start learning game development.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, there's an element of a self-interest in here. We like to see educational organization to have access to, you know, the latest and the greatest at a very cost-effective manner, so that, you know, we have more young people that come out of schools or universities with the right skills for companies like ours. I think this is good for us, and it's good for people who end up in those jobs, because they get paid well, and they'll create fun stuff, and actually more recently creating stuff that is more relevant to the community through the, you know, IoT application, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Well, I think that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for your time. It's been
Thank you. Thank you very much.
fascinating.